Before you map anything with custom textures, we need to have a freaking conversation because if you're anything like me, you probably were all excited about mapping. You were like, all right, I'm gonna go take all the textures and graphics from 20xc7. I'm gonna take all the ones from Swim with the Whales, from Flotsam, and Fractured Worlds. I'm gonna throw them all into a wad and I'm gonna start mapping. Well, you do that, you're gonna be in trouble. You need to follow the steps in this video to avoid having repeat textures, stuff that's named the same but looks different. Having duplicate iWAD textures, which will get your stuff rejected from id Games. So let's start off with making your resource. So you already know how to make things from scratch if you wanted to. The other video showed you how to make the lumps. But let's say you wanted to like merge textures and stuff like that. What you would do is for 20xc7, for example, let's say you wanted to take 20xc7 textures, and you're gonna see why it would suck doing this. But I would find a good marker, which you will in a wad like this. So like pp the patch start here, this will have all of the 20xc7 textures, and scroll down and you'll find here patch end. Same thing with the flats here, has a start and an end point, and these should all just be 20xc7 special, and you can copy them and paste them into OTEX. And I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to demonstrate it because it's going to take forever to load. But then next up for 20xc7, you have your texture X. This is very important because here are your iWAD textures. If you took this entire texture X, copied it, and pasted it into this one, you're gonna have these duplicate iWAD textures, and again, like I said before, you're gonna get it rejected from id Games. So everything past ZZZ Phase 9, at this point, this should be all 20xc7. So like this is usually the last one. This is the last one in the list of iWAD textures in here. So everything from here down, you can click that and then copy and paste it into OTEX. And here's the kicker why you really shouldn't be doing that. You've got to deal with the switches and the animated textures. So these animated textures, there is no easy or fast way to copy paste them from one wad to another wad. You're gonna have to type these out individually. So for that reason, I think it's a lot better to just take something standard and just try to work with it, and don't try to get too ambitious. And if you just happen to want a texture from a resource, you can just bring that one individually. But for the sake of having a lot of resources, because I did this for this project, so I just figured it'd be important to show it anyway. But yeah, so you got to deal with the animated and the switches. But let's say you do all that. Now you've got your resource taken care of. Now you can start actually mapping, and you're gonna have this resource wad separate from the wad that you're actually mapping in. So I'd recommend that what you do is you load in the editor. In fact, I wasn't planning on showing this, but I'm gonna go ahead and do that now. But whenever you do create a new map, you're going to add the resource, whatever you just created, and then you're going to start mapping, and that's going to create a whole new wad, and that wad is just going to contain for example, this group of lumps. This will just be just the map. So that's going to be two separate wads, and that's how I'd recommend you do it. Now you've got a couple options as you're mapping. What you can do is your second wad that has just the map, you could import textures every time you use them. Just every session that you do, at the end of the session, you can just grab the textures and bring them with you. I personally don't do that. I just sort of do something else at the end, which you'll see. But if you do that and you bring all your animated textures at the same time, then you're gonna be pretty much gold. But for me, at the end of my project, and especially if you're working with other people, you're not going to be able to keep track of all your textures at once. I'd recommend at the end you use archive, maintenance, and remove unused patches, textures, or flats. Now, duplicated from iWAD, duplicate, You don't really have to do these. If you were careful about merging the resources at first, you shouldn't have this problem. But these top three are very important. These wouldn't hurt to run still anyway, but yeah, these are the most important. So before you decide to use these, you've got a couple options, because what's going to happen is, let's say for F field, I've got F field B1, and I've zoomed in so you can see. But yeah, so if I texture a wall with F field B1, it's an animated texture, and it's going to go through these frames of animation. But the thing is, these are all different textures, and I didn't texture a wall specifically with F field B4 or 2 or 3. So what it's going to do is it's actually going to delete all of these, because Slade sees it as unused. It doesn't see them, you know, written there as specifically textured on a wall. So it's going to do that to those, and the same thing with switches. So, you know, switch has an off position, you textured everything with an off position, the on position is going to get deleted. So what you can do, some people have a placeholder map that they just kind of, they will put, they'll just make a new map and just texture it with F field B2 and 3 and 4 and 5 and 6 and 7, like all on different walls, just for this purpose. Then after they're done with that, then it'll be safe to go and remove unused everything, and it'll work just fine. But for me personally, I like to just finish the map. Don't worry about making that placeholder map or anything. Just once the map is done, immediately go do maintenance, let it delete all my animated textures, and then I can just bring the animated textures back, re-add them to texture X, and it'll be all right. So that's at least how I do it. But anyway, yeah, there's lots of options there as you're mapping. So just in general, just be careful about your freaking textures, because it's so frustrating. There is nothing worse than getting to the end of your WOD. You just finished, you're so excited to put it out, but you have like a bunch of duplicate textures that you need to deal with. Stuff is conflicting. You send it into id Games and it gets rejected. Nobody can play it yet. So be careful about that. Follow the steps in this video. Hope you guys enjoyed. If you have any questions, hit me up in the comments. Till next time, peace.